You remembered why you love sailing so much? Yeah. How about you, Joe? Are you happy as well?
I'm wet.
Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. So today is all about our dinghy and particularly this new toy that I've bought for us, which is an electric outboard motor / trolling motor. So the thinking behind getting this for the dinghy was that as we are in a bigger boat now and are going to have to potentially anchor further out, we might on occasion need a bit more power to get to shore. But more so than that, it's so that we can actually potentially go off and explore more in the dinghy. You know, thinking particularly like gear, for example, you know, it'd be nice to be able to spend a few days there, go off and explore the island, and, you know, snorkel a few different spots. And to be able to do that without having to keep moving the boat and find suitable anchorages and things like that would be quite nice. So that's kind of why we went for this. So I may have gone a bit overboard with this because it's a fairly beefy £155 for us. No, £55 for us. I don't know, one of the two. Pretty decent sort of trolling motor made by Bison, which I think are a reasonable make. This itself is pretty light. The engine's pretty, you know, got a bit of heft to it, but it's not too bad. But I'm a little concerned with what I've done with the battery. So I figured I'd buy the sort of nice posh Bison box, which has got all the fittings. It's even got like USB and 12-volt sockets on it, so it acts as a bit of a power supply. But that doesn't come with a battery in it, so you've got to buy a separate battery. So I've actually bought this one, which is an AGM battery. It's 130 amp hour, which I wasn't really sure how much power these use and how long we would need it for. But it's a fairly hefty battery. It weighs about 29 kilos, I think, which is within the weight capacity of this box. But we are a little bit concerned as to, you know, we're going to have to sort of lift this on and off into the dinghy, and we're going to have to, you know, use the dinghy with this sort of extra weight in there. And, you know, it's not a giant dinghy. So before we go ahead and get ourselves right up to Scotland in the middle of nowhere and start relying on it, we thought it'd be a good idea to do some testing. So what we're going to actually do is we're going to take the dinghy down to a local lake, which is called Lake Vyrnwy. And we're going to do some sort of speed and endurance and stability tests with it, so we can just about make sure that it, you know, it's safe and it's going to be fine to use once we're up in Scotland. But before that, I've got to do a few little jobs. I've got to, you know, put the battery in here and wire it all up properly. I've got to fit the propeller to the engine, and I'm actually going to make a new kind of floorboard for the dinghy, just so that this has got something to sit on and can sort of spread the weight of it a little bit across the dinghy. So yeah, so let's get to that and then we can go and have some fun on the lake. Okay, so that's it all wired up, pretty simple to be honest, and the propeller bolted on, and yeah, everything seems to be working. A couple of points. One is that the battery box is pretty heavy. Supposedly this handle is rated to 32 kilos, I think it is, which is more than the battery, but I really wouldn't trust this plastic handle that's screwed into this plastic top to be that strong. So I've got some straps coming which can have some D-links and everything like that, which will give it a bit more of a secure lifting point, and it'll also allow us to kind of, by some method I've yet to determine, be able to winch it, or not winch it, but sort of lower it on a rope off the side of the boat into the dinghy rather than having to rely on my strength, because yeah, I'm not sure I can climb up and down a ladder too often with this. The propeller seems pretty powerful. It's a little bit kind of scary, as propellers are when they're out of the water like this. I'm a little bit, there's no like on off button as such, which is kind of a bit disconcerting. In my concern being that if you were to accidentally leave it, the handle switched on, or on a forward or in gear, should we say, and then you were to connect to the battery, it would instantly go. So it's something we're going to have to be careful of and check. I think it probably should have like a additional on and off. It's a little bit concerning, particularly when it's out the water, because you put your hand anywhere near that or any body part near that when it's going, and it's going to do a lot of damage. So yeah, we're going to have to just be a little bit sensible as to how we manage that side of it. But next job is to take the dinghy outside and see what we can do about using some eco-ply to make a bit of a floorboard that this battery can sit on. Okay, so I think that's everything installed. Floorboard's down, battery's got a little cubby thing to hold it in. The outboard's done, the wiring's done. I'm going to get some padding for the edges of this just so it doesn't rub on the side of the boat. But it should be all right for a little test without that. But yeah, so we are good to go. So it is starting to look a little bit like the old cliche that we might need a bigger boat, but I guess we're not going to find out until we hit the water. So with that in mind, let's head over to the lake. So as if by magic, here we are at the beautiful Lake Vernwy, and big thanks to Bethania Adventure, who have given us special permission to take the dinghy down and test the engine here, because technically you're not supposed to have outboards, even electric ones, on this because it is a reservoir. However, they have given us permission. But yeah, they do lots of kayaking, sailing, paddleboarding, that sort of thing here. So if you're interested, check out a link up for it will be in the description below. But without further ado, let's jump on the water and see if this engine is actually going to push the dinghy along.
So quiet, it's like, are we going? Yeah. Are we not going?
So we're out on the lake, and it's actually, for a lake, quite choppy. There's actually quite a few rolling waves. The wind's coming straight down the lake, and it is a couple of miles long, so give it a chance to pick up some waves. But yeah, so far I think it seems to be going okay. I mean, main things we wanted to test were stability. We're well within the weight capacity of this dinghy, but this battery, the engine, myself, Joe, particularly Joe, Skylar, adds a lot of weight to the boat. So we did want to make sure that it's going to be safe to use. And the plan for this dinghy, the engine, isn't so much to be like every time we go to shore we're going to load this engine in, the battery and everything. Often it's going to be just more convenient to row. The idea of this is so that we can actually, as I think I said earlier, go off on some little trips and things like that. leave the main boat and go off, particularly like things like gear. So we're not going to be doing that on rough days, but it is good to test it with a bit of waves, a bit of chop. I know that, whilst we're getting rocked around a bit and I've got a bit of a wet bum, the boat is still very much stable, very much floating, not really an issue. And it's pushing us along a reasonable speed. I mean, it's not breakneck, we didn't expect it to be, but it is sort of confidently pushing us forward, even when we turn into the wind and waves, can't talk. So yeah, so I think that's pretty good. So yeah, we're going to pot around a bit longer and see how much power and how much distance we can get out of the battery. Angled it perfectly.
I didn't bring any spare pants.
So we're just checking out our navigator app on the phone. I think we're doing about 2.5 to just over 3 knots downwind. It was quite a long wind today, so I'm going to turn the side on now and get my butt wet. And let's see what that does. We're heading across the wind and across the waves. Off getting us rocked about a bit. There we are. Don't know, sorry about the wind, but I haven't got my microphone with me right now. But it seems that this thing seems to push us at a fairly consistent speed regardless. Like, it's not fast, obviously, 3 knots. Although we would have been happy with that on Salty on a few of our trips. But it doesn't seem to be affected too much by the wind and waves. There's not much tide, there's no tide here to deal with, so that would probably make a difference. But I mean, maybe because it's such a small boat, that the wind isn't really causing it that much issue, because yeah, across the wind we're still doing, I mean, maybe a bit more consistently 3 knots, but pretty much exactly the same speed. We'll turn into the wind in a second and get Skylar and Joe really wet, and we'll see if that makes a difference. But yeah, so far it's doing all right, and we are, well, the indicator's still just saying we've got 1 dot, which it already had said that as soon as we set off, so that's just the current draw of the actual engine. So I don't think we're going to stay out. One of the original plans was to stay out and run the battery down and see how far we could go, but given the scale of the battery I've got, I have a feeling that we could be out here till dark, going around in circles, which I'm not really keen on doing. So right, let's turn upwind and see us get a little bit splashed now, and see what that does to the speed. And makes it more bumpy. And we are holding steady at about 2.5 knots. So yeah, that makes sense. We've lost about half a knot going into the wind. But yeah, still solidly pushing us along without really keeping up the temperature. Do you remember why you love sailing so much? Yeah. How about you, Joe? Are you happy as well?
I'm wet.
So we expected it to be quite this rough on a lake, but you know us, we're adventurous sailors, so we always go out in the rough weather.
I'm catching disembark.
So I think that was a pretty successful test all in all. Engine pushed us along quite nicely, I'd say about 3 knots, which isn't super fast, but it's kind of all we need for what we want to achieve with it. Battery wise, we were out for a good, I think, couple of hours, and we've used, I'm going to say, based on the indicator, about 25%, maybe a little bit more battery. So yeah, we've got plenty of range, probably certainly longer than we'd want to spend out in the dinghy anyway. So all that's left for me to do here then is to say thank you once again to Dave and Gareth from Bifania Adventure for giving us permission to come down here and test out the engine. As I said earlier, technically you're not supposed to be bringing electric motors here to Lake Vyrnwy, but if you do fancy some fun on the water, they do kayaking, paddleboarding, sailing, etc, etc, and Lake Vyrnwy is just a beautiful place, as hopefully you've seen from some of the footage, and it's certainly worth a visit. So, you know, check out the link below for information about the place, and yeah, if you happen to be in North Wales and looking for somewhere beautiful to go for a walk, then head down here. Right, so I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Please, as always, remember to subscribe and like. We are going to be heading up and actually doing some sailing pretty soon, so the channel's hopefully going to get some sailing videos. So if you are looking for that, I say subscribe so you'll be notified when those videos come up. But for now, I'm going to leave it there. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next video.